Hey, Blue, we're live and you're looking down. Say hello.
I was still reading the menu.
For the first time, more than 5.5 years, we finally have a few new answers to a question that has loomed over Indiana, the town of Delphi. Who killed Abigail Williams and the
End of the bridge. You gotta go through. Now, I believe that the bodies were found out.
In April of 2020, Army soldier Madison Mogen went missing while stationed at one of the largest military installations.
That little music in the background goes, don't be suspicious.
Right.
Knew about it or was there as guilty as the person who committed
the arrest of a suspected serial killer calm before he could strike again.
They dropped the ball, man. They dropped the ball, man. They said he went AWOL. And he was a deserter. And nobody was not a deserter.
With the arrest of Richard Allen of Delphi, 2 counts of murder.
Like I said, we're going back. We were asked last time, kind of talk about the grub truck video, kind of give our perspective. The press release from the police department indicates that they're still trying to get the pieces together from that night. Does that worry you at any bit? They're still trying to put those
It's been over 5 weeks since little Kaylee Anthony vanished. Her mother, Casey, has been arrested for lying to police. She's being held without bail.
Greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Philip J. Fry. And you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one-stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do. Just like every other podcast.
Just like every other podcast. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drunk Turkey Show. I'm Daniel. Alongside with me, as always, is Big Blue. Good to see your face this time, my man. How you doing?
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Yeah, there's a little bit of an echo.
Yeah, you're gonna have to adjust it on your end. I don't hear it on my end, but it's probably gonna be just in your headphones because we're live. While you get that adjusted, I'll kind of let everybody know what's going on. So yesterday we had a members only live, which if you're not a member and you want to catch that, you can become a member. That's the first thing you can do is just become a member. And what do you call it? You can catch that live that I did yesterday. Or if it's not in the cards for you right now to become a member, you can check it out on either Spotify or Apple Podcast, or tell Alexa or Google to play the most recent Drunk Turkey Show podcast episode, and it'll come up. So go check that out if you haven't checked it before. People are saying there's an echo on my side as well. I wonder why.
Did you mute the StreamYard again?
No, everything's supposed to be good on my end. I'm not sure why it would be an echo.
It goes away and then comes back. Right now I don't hear it.
All right. Interesting. Yeah, I don't hear any echo on my end. It was just the intro. You see, here's the thing about that. Last time I muted because we're going to be doing calls later. So I muted my share screen, right? And no sound came out. And then I unmuted it and it came out right. And this time I kept it unmuted and now it's echoing. So StreamYard needs to get their stuff together and figure it out which way they want to work. You know what I mean? But yes, yesterday I had my members only live. We were talking. The question came up about some reservations that the Kohbergers may or may not have made. There's some allegations that have been out there for a bit, as far as, did somebody in the family talk? Did they speak to law enforcement and do any of those type of things, right? So I think we should look into it and see what it is. You know what I mean? What do you think, Blue?
Yeah. Let's follow some of those little trails, the breadcrumbs.
100%. So this is off of HollywoodLife.com. And for some reason, it's frozen. There it goes. This is Bryan Kohberger's family, everything to know about his parents and sisters. And this was published October 26, 2023. So I'm not going to read the entire thing. I'm just going to read what it talks about when it comes to the family. So it states here, Michael Kohberger Jr., this is going to be his father, says both Bryan parents were employees at Pleasant Valley School District for many years. Michael was a maintenance worker at the school district from 2006 to 2019. Weeks after the killings, Michael had flown out to Washington to travel home to Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, with his son, according to Newsweek. In mid-December, the father and son drove for about 2,500 miles in the white Hyundai Elantra that police had told the public to be out on the lookout for. Bryan stayed with his family through the holidays until his arrest on December 30th. Both Bryan's parents were also subpoenaed to testify in front of grand jury in May 2023. Sources told the news organization that the attorney for them tried to have the subpoena thrown out, but it was unsuccessful. And this was referencing Dana Smithers, who we brought up before. We talked about the possibility of Bryan Kohberger being involved in that case. But I'll move forward. So it says here, after the Idaho murders, it was revealed that Bryan had first been arrested in 2014 for misdemeanor theft when he allegedly took his sister's phone, per ABC News. It was actually Michael who had called law enforcement about the stolen property. Bryan didn't serve any jail time for his arrest. This is about his mom, Mary Ann Kohberger. As mentioned above, Mary Ann Kohberger was also employed by the Pleasant Valley School District until 2020. She worked as a paraprofessional assisting special needs students, according to the Post. Besides her work in school, Mary Ann occasionally wrote letters to the local paper, Pocono Record. In June 2022, she wrote on reflecting the school shootings in America. She also shared a poem that her daughter had written about the tragic shooting in Uvalde, Texas. As I sat this morning reeling from yet another school shooting, I found myself wrestling with which actions need to be taken to stop all madness. What is the answer? Gun control measures, mental health intervention, Mary Ann wrote to the paper. As I read the poem, I thought, whatever the solution, I pray we consider the children before the gun. Amanda Kohberger, not much is known about Bryan's older sister, Amanda. Following her brother's arrest, it was reported that both she and her sister, Melissa, had each been fired from their jobs in March of 2023. While it's not clear what Amanda did for work, she also was an actress, but only had one credit in a 2011 horror film, 2 Days Back, per IMDb. Now, that movie was pretty weird because it was a slasher movie. And, I saw some of the parts of the movie where she comes out in. It's like an indie film type of thing. I didn't see the whole movie. I couldn't tell you what it's all about. I think I saw maybe 4 minutes. Blue, have you seen this movie?
I just seen the clips.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
Me too. Melissa Kohberger is in Mary Ann's letter to the Pocono Record. She had written that Melissa worked as a mental health therapist in New Jersey. As mentioned above, her mother had also shared a poem that she wrote about the Uvalde shooting. Like her sister, it was reported that she had been fired from her job. What do you think about that, Big Blue, that these two young ladies have gotten they've gotten fired from their job for something that their brother did? Allegedly.
I'm not sure if it's 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because they got fired for something somebody else did. They can actually lawyer up and sue the company. So unless the company is that dumb to lose that kind of money, but I think it's something else.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's one thing about, you're right, but the thing is too, I think one of them was a mental, health professional. I'm not sure where she worked or whatnot. I don't know if that could be some sort of effect on her job. And I don't know what the other person did for a living. I don't think it's right, to be honest with you. You can't control what somebody else does. Now, I know you're saying that you think it might be because of something else, but for both of them to get into some sort of trouble right after, their brother gets arrested and both of them to get fired, that's too much coincidence.
It could have been they stopped attending work for a while because people trying to harass them at work.
Oh, you're right there.
Interviewers. and if you don't show up for work a certain amount of days, they'll fire you.
Yeah.
That can be true, but you know, if you wanted to do, you talk to your boss like, hey, can I take vacation for a couple of weeks or leave of absence without pay? They have options. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they definitely do. I think that if they did get fired, they'd have a pretty good solid case for unemployment because it's out of their control what somebody else does. So in this article, there was one paragraph that I passed over, but I want to go back and read it. And this kind of goes along with what we're going to be talking about today, which is, who talked, if somebody talked, did someone talk? Right. So in this paragraph, it says, following Bryan's arrest, his family released a statement via his public defender showing support for Bryan, while also expressing sympathy for the victim's family, per the New York Post. In quotations, it says, we have fully cooperated with law enforcement agencies in an attempt to seek the truth and promote his presumption of innocence, rather than judge unknown facts and make erroneous assumptions. Now, a lot of folks took this statement as that they were backing Bryan Kohberger and they thought that he was innocent. After reading this right now, Blue, do you take that out of that sentence?
No, I'm just saying that.
Do you think that they think he's innocent based off of that sentence?
Let me read it one more time.
It says, we have fully cooperated with law enforcement agencies in an attempt to seek the truth and promote his presumption of innocence, rather than judge unknown facts and make erroneous assumptions.
In a sense, they're going with innocence, but because they couldn't trust the facts.
No, I don't think that at all, man. First and foremost, it says they fully cooperated, which means that, in my opinion, one of these persons talked, if not more than one, if not all, talked to law enforcement, referencing their time with Bryan Kohberger, what they saw, what they suspected, what they didn't suspect. You know what I'm saying? So if they fully cooperated with law enforcement agencies, then they spoke to police officers. And I think that's important to understand. Now, this also says here, promote his presumption of innocence. Now, it don't say his innocence. It says presumption, which is given to everybody, right? Whether you're guilty or not guilty, or if you did it or didn't do it, until you've been, found guilty, there's the presumption of innocence.
Yeah.
Now, I know that there's somebody in here saying that they're friends with the family and of the Kohbergers, and they know that they're backing them up 100%, this, that, and a third. And that might be very much true. I also have some word that they have cooperated with law enforcement as well. And at least one of them, if not more. So to me, this says they've fully cooperated with law enforcement agencies. Now, let's go up to the next article real quick. This is from The Independent. It says Bryan Kohberger's sister searched car for evidence before police swooped in. It says Bryan Kohberger's sister feared that her brother was involved in the stabbings of the 4 University of Idaho students before police swooped in on their parents' home and arrested him for murder. All right, according to the bombshell report, sources told NBC Dateline that one of the accused killer's older siblings grew increasingly suspicious of her brother and his behavior when the family gathered to spend the holidays together. Their suspicions were so great, at one point, several family members searched Mr. Kohberger's white Elantra for possible evidence of the crime, they said. Now, this is coming from a source. Now, in the last article, it said that they fully cooperated with police, law enforcement agencies. So who do you think this source is, Big Blue?
I want to say it could be, the sisters had a good friend or a boyfriend. Somebody they trusted that information.
Nah, it's a cop, man. Whoever's coming out with this information is a Pennsylvania officer, and I'm not sure how the Idaho gag order would prevent a Pennsylvania officer from speaking on what, one of Bryan Kohberger's family members may have said, whether it was, in a written or verbal statement, or if it was something that was just spoken out loud, during the chaos that was him getting arrested. Like, oh my God, we thought it was him. We even searched his car. You know what I mean? That could have been just something that they yelled out or said out loud, versus something that they were trying to purposefully, put into that, in that direction. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. Okay.
And this says the sources told, and Dateline, one of the accused killers' older siblings grew increasingly suspicious. So it goes, her suspicions were so great that at one point, several family members searched Kohberger's white Elantra for possible evidence of the crime. Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin were found brutally stabbed to death in an off-campus home in Moscow, Idaho, that the three women shared with two other roommates on the 13th of November. Right, so that goes into some other stuff that's going with the case from previously. This is where it gets back. It says the source. The source said Mr. Kohberger was constantly wearing latex gloves, including inside their home. Now that's interesting. That tells me that the source is Bryan Kohberger's sister. Because the source said that he wore gloves inside. Well, maybe not. To me, the way I read it the first time, it sounded like she was saying their home as if it was their, like both of them. Well, why would they say their home if it was just solely him? Wouldn't it say, including inside, his family's home?
Yeah. It sounds like it. Maybe just the way they typed it, but.
The source said that Kohberger was constantly wearing latex gloves, including inside their own home. Their own home. It doesn't sound like somebody talking about Kohberger and his family home or his parents' home, or even if he lived there, his own home.
Yeah, it sounds like it's somebody from inside the house.
Mm-hmm. That's what it sounds like to me. One of his two older sisters began to wonder if he could have played a part in the murders. At one point, she raised concerns with her other family members. She loudly pointed out that at the time of the murders, her brother was just living just a few miles from the crime scene, and that he drove a white Elantra, the make and color of the vehicle at the center of the investigation, along with his bizarre tendency to wear latex gloves at the time. She believed that the family should consider that Mr. Kohberger might have killed 4 victims, the source said. So there's a lot of details that this source knows. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's a lot of details about, she loudly pointed out at the time that her brother was living just a few miles away. Like, that's a interesting detail there. And, white Elantra, lived a few miles away. Along with his bizarre tendency to wear latex gloves at the time, she believed that the family should consider that Mr. Kohberger might have killed the 4 victims, the source said. So the latex gloves weren't something common. That's interesting. Now, he'd only been in Pullman, Washington for a handful of months, maybe 3 or 4. So this must have been something that he developed. Something, right?
Yeah, I would say it doesn't say he would teach with gloves either.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the neighbors say he would walk out with gloves on to throw his trash. But, you never know if they ever saw him.
That's interesting. And I will say, I've heard some things, like I said a few times when people have asked me, do you know things that maybe others don't? The answer is yes. And this might be one of them. So let's continue. One of the 2 older sisters began to wonder if he could have played a part in them. All right, never mind. So I'm a little bit further down. Along with Mr. Kohberger's father allegedly defended his son and insisted he could have not been involved. But the concerns were clearly big enough for several of the family members to reportedly decide to search the 28-year-old's vehicle to look for possible evidence. Now, the big word here is reportedly. They reportedly decided to search the 28-year-old vehicle. So that somebody reported that down. Source, police officers. By that point, police said Mr. Kohberger had already been spotted cleaning his car out with bleach. And so the family members didn't find anything of note, the source said. Here's the other thing about that is it doesn't say who spotted him cleaning his car out with bleach. A lot of people, have come to the assumption that it was law enforcement that spotted him cleaning his car out with bleach. But it could have easily have been one of the family members, aka source, possible. It is not clear if Mr. Kohberger was aware of his family members' suspicions that he could have been behind the murders. I mean, I don't understand how not. If one of them yelled out loudly, in their suspicion. Interesting. All right. Soon after that, in the early hours of the 30th of December, law enforcement descended on the family home and arrested him for the murders. At the time of the arrest, the source said Mr. Kohberger was wide awake, standing in the kitchen wearing latex gloves and putting his personal trash in plastic bags to take it out to the neighbor's trash can. See, this tells me that it goes back to it being law enforcement because they have some details about, what he was wearing and what he was doing in the kitchen and what he was about to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm reading the comments, also trying to see what are the good ones.
Oh, you're fine. Leave that alone. An attorney close to the Kohberger's family declined to comment on the revelations outlined in Dateline's killings on King Road. On Monday, May 22nd, he will appear in court for his arraignment. So that's about it, right? Now, let's just go back and read the entire statement, right? So we have it complete. This is the Kohberger family statement. It says, first and foremost, we care deeply for the four families who have lost their precious children. There are no words that can adequately express the sadness we feel, and we pray each day for them. We will continue to let the legal process unfold, and as a family, we will love and support our son and brother. We have fully cooperated with law enforcement agencies in an attempt to seek the truth and promote his presumption of innocence rather than judge unknown facts and make erroneous assumptions. We respect privacy in this matter as our family and the families of suffering loss can move forward through the legal process. I mean, they basically said they fully cooperated with law enforcement, so they clearly talked about something. You know what I mean?
No, I think maybe the dad maybe talked to them, or one of the family members.
Well, this is saying
before
that this is
the
saying
gag order were not.
Well, right, and that's true. And this is also saying that it was one of the sisters who was apparently, well, not so much talking to the media, but talking to law enforcement and specified their concerns about Bryan Kohberger. Now, I don't know how accurate this is. This could very well be, fabricated, but I have received some information that there was a Marianne Kohberger reservation at Suraya, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, a restaurant out in Philadelphia during the time that Bryan Kohberger was out there. And there was a request for dimming lights or for a low lit area. Now, the reason I can't show you the picture of it is because it's a photo of a screen, right? This person I think works there. And in the reflection of the screen, you can see this person's face. So I'm not going to dox anybody or do any of those things. But yeah, apparently, and from what I understand, a lot of these questions may have came up at this restaurant. Now, this restaurant right here just so happens to be the midway point between Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey, where one of his sisters lives. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. It was a reservation for 5. So you have Bryan Kohberger's parents, you have Bryan Kohberger's sister, at least one, if not both. And then you may suspect that the last person would be Bryan Kohberger. But if any of these two ladies are married, which I don't know, or they're engaged, which I don't know, I would assume that maybe they would have brought somebody. And maybe it wasn't something that they accused Kohberger to his face that he did something, but it may have been in a, in a setting like that where it was other family members who were talking about the situation and thought about perhaps what's being said in these documents. Now, I don't know. I wasn't there, so I can't say for sure that that's how it went down or whatever the case may be. But to my knowledge, from what I understand, that seems to be very accurate. But take it for what it is. I don't think he started wearing the gloves until he spotted what he thought might be surveillance detail inside his gated Poconos community. I thought it said that he was wearing gloves, or it may have been reported somewhere that he was wearing gloves at the Albertsons video when he's inside there and at some of the other places at restaurants. But I could be wrong. I'm not sure.
I mean, you don't see no gloves when the police pull him over.
Right. Well, he's not out in public. He's inside his personal vehicle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but inside his parents' house, and he still wore gloves there. That's not public.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, it's weird. I don't know. Maybe perhaps it was something that he started when he was in Pennsylvania. I thought I heard or saw or read, but I honestly can't remember. And it wasn't anything that anybody told me. It was I just thought I read or saw that it was at the Albertsons or one of the gas or one on the surveillance tape after the murders. But I don't know. Let's see. Yep. And during the stakeout that's a setting, I hope it's on video. Well, we'll see. I mean, even if it's not, how does him wearing gloves or not wearing gloves or throwing his trash in somebody else's yard, if it's not on video, how is that going to say that he didn't commit the murders? You know what I mean? What he was doing at his home there by throwing trash out, maybe it's an offense in Pennsylvania to throw your trash in somebody else's trash can. I'm not sure. But what did he do illegally? By wearing gloves and cleaning out his car with bleach. Like, none of those things are illegal they're suspicious, obviously, with what he's alleged to have committed, but there's nothing illegal there. And I don't see how those things tie into him being innocent, so to speak. Well, W.S. Kim liked to blame a loose-lipped state trooper for a lot of her inside info, allegedly. Man, cops talk, yo. I'll be honest with you. It's sometimes, especially when it's human nature. A lot of people think that, cops are like robots or something. At the end of the day, when you know something that maybe not everybody else knows, whether you're a cop or not, I can see that being something that's difficult to hold in and not want to tell somebody. You know what I mean? And I think that can sometimes get out in the wrongest of ways. Now, when it came to W.S. Kim's state trooper or whatnot, she claims that was the trooper that was at the autopsy as well. So it's connected at every point, and I find that to be odd. Just throwing that out there. What do you think, Blue?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure she was in contact with somebody at the station.
Yeah.
They would let her know a little bit of information just to calm her down, but I don't think they would give her all the information.
Nah, they wouldn't give her anything. I don't care. Like, if I was on this case and somebody called me saying all this stuff, right, I would not care what she's saying. I ain't giving her jack. There ain't nothing. Like, her, the media, the anybody. Now that's just me personally, right? I know for a fact that other people, they're not like that. But when it comes to a murder like this, if somebody's mom just randomly called, I'd find it really suspicious. Not so much suspicious. Let me rephrase that. I'd find it hard to believe that story if somebody came out and said that they called claiming to be a parent of somebody who's not involved in a quadruple homicide, and they say they gave them any kind of information. I would find that story to be suspicious in the sense where I don't believe that it is the truth. Does that make sense? Not that I think it's suspicious that, they're framing him. No, nothing like that. The suspicion that I pick up is that somebody's lying to me.
I would say they wouldn't give her like specific information. They would probably tell her like what they tell everybody. Oh, we're on the case. We're investigating. Just the normal spew you give people to calm them down, just to like get off the call.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, probably. I mean, you probably tell somebody like, yeah, we got somebody in mind or something of that nature. I can see that, that being something just to calm someone down. But if that gets around, you know what I mean? It can be, it can cause problems. Like people already are super suspicious when it comes to law enforcement for whatever reason. Law enforcement is apparently just, arresting everybody wrongly. You shouldn't walk out in the street because the real killers for all these crimes are out there still. You know what I'm saying? And I digress. All right, let's get some phone calls coming in, and get your guys' thoughts and theories on this. Let me pull it real quick. Oops, wrong one. There it is. It'll come up here in a minute. Let me change this around. Hey, there it is. So the phone number is 210-209-9435. If you want to call in, let us know, and we'll have a conversation. Let me change this around real quick. All right, we got our first call coming in. Oh, man, I hit the wrong button. One second. Because I know that blue's not on here. 848, you're on?
Hey, what's up? You guys can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm trying to get blue in real quick. Let me see if I can do that. Hey, Blue, call back in. I'm going to hang up on you. Call back in, all right? So I can merge it in there. All right. So can you hear me? Hello? Oh, man, I think he hung up. (314), you're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, Drunk Turkey?
Yes,
Am I
sir.
on the air?
Yes, sir. You're on the air. What's up?
Hey, this is something that people don't know about. Let me turn down my volume on my TV. Sorry. At any rate, Melissa Kohberger was also in the entertainment biz.
Uh-huh.
Not only his sister Amanda, Melissa, I found out back in January 1st of 2023, researching her pictures on the net. She did a Jet Setter magazine spread.
Uh-huh.
Throughout the magazine, she was dressed in goth attire, goth makeup, beautiful girl, fine photos.
Mm-hmm.
But all that data was wiped from the net within 4 days after me putting that out on my Facebook. So it wasn't just Amanda in the entertainment biz. Apparently, Melissa did some modeling work also. I just felt that that was something that people may be interested in. I found out about the movie like at the end of around the same time, around January 1st, 2023. And so I searched his other sister, and I found those pictures, but I've never been able to find them back. I did download one from it, but I wasn't able to get back in time before they wiped it off the net. So just wanted to let you all know. It's worth, if anyone has any connections over at Jet Setter Magazine to get those pictures, it would be great to see, just because it adds some interesting visuals to the story. Thank you very much. Enjoy your show.
Thank you. I appreciate you. It's awesome. Thank you for calling in. Thank you so much. All right, Blue, I'm going to call you real quick. All right. I got you back, Blue. I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah. All right. So here comes another call. Let me see if I can merge this in. You're on the air. Can you hear us? 848. You're on the air. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. And you're on the air with myself and Big Blue. What's going on?
Not much. I just tuned in. So we're talking about who possibly told on Bryan. That's what we talking about.
Yeah. Well, there's been some reports that Bryan's sisters or maybe some of his family members may have cooperated with law enforcement and spoken about, some of the things that maybe perhaps, his actions while he was up there before his arrest.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember watching. I don't know if you guys remember. I remember watching, what was that NBC episode or whatever it was, when they was possibly saying that his sister called law enforcement. You remember that?
Yeah.
Or all right, cool. I don't really know about if I believe that or not. Is it possible that she could have maybe called in when all of this happened, and when they released the info about the Elantra, maybe she gave a helpful hand, saying like, "Oh, my brother has an Elantra." Because when they first started talking about the Elantra, they was basically saying like, we believe the individuals that own that car may have some valuable information. They didn't make it seem like they were suspects. They just made it seem like they was maybe around the area at the time and made it seem something. So maybe she gave out a helping hand, thinking that her brother can help, or maybe she has some malice intent behind it. I don't know. But it is interesting because I was saying something where Steve had said that they have an informant on the case that made a toll on Bryan. If he is the murderer, I just don't think that he told anybody that he did it.
Right.
Well, I just don't see the point in doing that. So if there is an informant, I think they're more so a co-defendant, somebody that helped them, aided them into the crime, and they, you know how it goes: first come, first serve, first to talk, get the deal, something like that. And if the reports are true that he basically said if anyone else was arrested for this crime, then that would make sense that it was more so like a co-defendant than an actual informant. You know what I mean? I guess we won't know until trial, until somebody takes the stand. And at that point, it's like, it could turn into a he said, she said type of case, where it's like, he did this, or no, he did that, I was just this, I don't know. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think it's more of a co-defendant, or do you think it's actually an informant?
When it comes to what his sisters may have said, I don't think that that's going to be something that's going to indicate that Bryan Kohberger did anything per se. I think they're just only going to talk about, his suspicious behavior while he was up there, the wearing of the gloves, the cleaning, maybe throwing out the trash in weird places, separating the trash, those type of things. As far as somebody that maybe perhaps told on Bryan, I don't think that that's there. I think that the informants that they refer to are the individuals that are on the IgG that make up that IgG. And so, and the reason being is if somebody were to have dimed out Kohberger at any point, let's just say it's a co-defendant, it was an accomplice, or if it was a family member, if somebody called in and said, hey, I think that this person is the person that committed this crime and this is the reason why, and if there was something credible there, all police would have to do is go over to that person's home, watch them, and see if they can pick up some DNA. Now, if they can't pick up DNA, let's just say that this person's wearing gloves, separating their trash and maybe bleaching their trash inside of baggies before putting them in the trash, and they just can't get it. Then the next step would go to parents' house and try to pick up DNA from their trash to get a match through a parent. And then once you get that match, then you can go and arrest the kid. You don't have to do the IgG. Now, the IgG, what it does is merely just kind of point at somebody. It doesn't say that this person is guilty or this person is responsible for the DNA on the sheath. It just says that based on, the DNA that's there and our genetic tree ability, we think it's this guy. Now, the reason why they say think is because they don't know. They don't test the DNA of the suspect to the DNA that's left behind. They only get the DNA that's left behind and come up with a profile of a person that could be. Now, law enforcement has to get that information and then make a case out of it. They just can't go arrest them for it. And so for me to do the IgG, that meant that they had 0 suspects, none whatsoever. They had no idea it was him, because if they had any indication it was him, they can bypass doing the IgG and just go pick up DNA from either his house or his parents' house. And so go ahead. Yeah, from the documents that I've read, it appears that the informants that they're speaking about are those that are on the family tree that have nothing to do with the case. They just at one point either submitted their DNA to, I know it's not Ancestry, but it's like an Ancestry website.
Right. And that do make sense what that could be, because I don't know exactly if like you said, I think the informant could be the part of the IgG family history and stuff, because I don't necessarily see him, if he is the actual guy, I don't actually see him telling anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know I wouldn't. That wouldn't make sense to do that. But at that point, you might as well just turn yourself in. But another question I had though before I go, with this case, it's definitely a strange case. Now I want to ask you a question. Without the DNA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without the DNA, the IgG, stuff like that. Let's throw the DNA out the window. As a juror member, would you think they have enough evidence without that DNA to actually hold this guy, or just would you sentence him to death without that DNA?
Without the DNA, I don't think they'd be asking for the death penalty. I think they'd be asking probably for 99 or 20 to life or something like that, and probably try to plea him down. I do think that it would have been a little bit more difficult to find him. However, if there wasn't DNA there, that doesn't exonerate Bryan Kohberger. That doesn't mean that he didn't do it. That doesn't exclude him from doing it. It just means that there's no, DNA evidence that says he did it. There's no other DNA evidence that says somebody else did it. It was only a single source DNA that was on that sheath, meaning it was only his, or at least in that portion that they tested. Now, I think,
but in the eye of the law, like
right.
In the eye of the courtroom, not to cut you off.
Right.
I feel like as far as what I know is, like, as a lawyer, your job is not to really prove his innocence.
Right.
It's just to cast doubt. If you can cast doubt on jury members, at that point, it's like they're not there to, like, you're not there to, like, prove, because you'll be there all day trying to prove this. Like, we can talk all day about if he's guilty or if he's not. It's just about, if you're on the jury board, like, do you have any doubt? And I think the punishment is the highest punishment you can get, sentence of death. So at that point, with or without the DNA, it's like, do you think a juror will really find him guilty? Because I also think that I don't know if he would get a fair trial, and that is his right as a citizen. Because with all these documentaries they're making with Paramount and CBS and all this other stuff, NBC and all that. I never seen anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'm not advocating for him. I don't want to make it seem like I'm doing that. If he did it, he deserved whatever's coming to him. But what I'm saying is that he's innocent until proven guilty. And with all these documentaries and stuff and all these theories on Reddit and online, it makes it I think it's going to be hard to really find a unbiased juror. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what you think about that?
Maybe. I mean, I think that there will be some folks who aren't on the internet, who aren't on YouTube, and you're probably looking at maybe some older folks in that sense, that aren't on Reddit, that probably may have heard the case or heard about it, but don't have an opinion one way or another, or maybe have only heard that somebody was arrested, but don't know anything specific about the case. So when it comes to that,
would they understand technology? Like, would they understand phone pings and all that stuff that they're throwing at them? Like,
well,
I know Steve had a problem with that too. Like, he didn't want just some, how he put it, a farmer, somebody that's outside of the modern day life, like somebody that don't know how to understand how technology works. And if you don't understand something, and let's say the prosecution or Ann Teller explains it to you one way, then you might just run with it. But that may not actually be how it works. That's just how they're saying it to you. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, that's what the lawyer's job is to make sure that they get the experts to explain it, and that they present it in an understandable way. If the lawyer doesn't do that, that's go ahead, Blue.
I said they got to put it in layman's terms to say, explain it to a child.
Right. Exactly. And
everybody to understand.
And as far as the DNA there, and if it wasn't there, the thing is, it was. Now, if it was for some reason thrown out or whatever the case may be, which I don't see that being the case here, I think there is quite a bit of evidence that it was him. You have him out and about during a specific time of when the murders happened. That specific time that the murders happened wasn't the conventional time. It was 4:00 in the morning on a Sunday morning. A lot of people were usually asleep or in bed. Well, actually, it was between 3:26 and 4:20 when he was seen driving around there. So, during that specific time, he has his phone off during that specific time. And at the same time, a car matching his without the front license plate is seen. So I know that right now they say there's this phone pings and that's 27 miles and this and that. However, that's not what they're going to use in court. They use that to get warrants, and that's it. In court, they're going to use his GPS locations, where they can tell if his phone was sideways, upward, if he had it on or off. They're going to know why his phone disconnected from the network. If his phone manually turned off, if his phone went on airplane mode, or if he lost service. There's going to be a record of all those things. There's going to be no guessing when it comes to that, when it comes to court time. And the fact that it hasn't been thrown out leads me to believe that it's probably not in favor of Bryan Kohberger when the results of those cases. So we're going to find out that this man was stalking.
I'm sorry. The DNA is the DNA is definitely strong. Like, the DNA is definitely strong. Like, I'm not even going. Well, it's strong enough to keep him in there. Like, I'm not going to argue that. But it's like, I also think that it could be a lot of things that can, work in his favor as well. You know what I mean? Like I seen somebody on the comment section. This is my last thing that I'm gonna go. I seen somebody in the comment section just now talk about the murder sheath. Now, you found the sheath without a weapon, right? And then you don't necessarily need a weapon to, when you have all the other stuff. Mm-hmm. But is it possible, just possible, that sheath is a red herring? Is it proven that that's actually the sheath that the murder weapon came from? Has it been proven that that's actually his sheath?
Well,
you know what I mean?
There's a receipt from Amazon on April of 2022 where he purchased the K-bar and the K-bar knife sheath, and both of those items
doesn't
cannot
mean that that's his sheath, so
right. But both of those items can't be found. Now this sheath has his DNA on it too, so it's not just the sheath was found without anything else there. And the victims were killed by a fixed blade knife. Now, from my understanding, and depending on how advanced the Idaho State Lab is or how far they are, I think they would probably be about equivalent to any other state. The FBI is involved. you can pull metal shavings out of a body and determine if they were all, from the same weapon. If there's metal shavings in each one of those bodies, you can determine if it was all the same weapon. You're going to be able to determine possibly where it was manufactured based on the elements that are created to forge that item. And so, there's going to be ways to determine those type of things. Also, there's going to be bruising on the outside of the skin where you would expect to see a guard from a K-bar knife that protects the assailant's hands. And, if those things are there, those impressions are there, plus the knife sheath, plus his DNA, plus he's missing those items, they can't be found. It's not looking too good, in my opinion.
I'll put it this way.
And then we have a few more calls coming in after this.
The question about if the DNA is not there, there'd be a questionable doubt on the jury. They would, but there would also be some other detective work that would have been done to process and find. It might have taken a little bit longer without the DNA. They probably still would have found them, going off the surveillance camera photos and videos and the eyewitness. I mean, they're still missing that part, even though it's like in most juries, the eyewitnesses ain't always reliable, but it still might be convincing enough.
And you're missing.
That's true. That's true. I mean, without my point was, without the DNA, like it would be harder for them to have, like you said, Dane. It would be harder for them to probably have found them. Maybe it took longer, if at all. You know what I mean? Because DNA is important. Without DNA, who knows? Like he may have still been out there. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. Like that.
Yeah, for sure. And in this case here, I think the DNA is more important because of the lack of other evidence. If there was a video of him walking in and you can see his face, or if there was a video of his license plate number, then the DNA wouldn't be as important. But because those things aren't there, that's what makes the DNA so important. But I want to thank you, man, for coming on. It was a great conversation. I appreciate you. You come back on a little bit later or the next time we do this. It was awesome talking to you.
Thank you.
Y'all too, man. Y'all take care.
Sounds good, my man. We have another call coming in. I'm going to merge that one in. It's going to be, oh man, I think it hung up. Oh, no, it's right there. 812, you're on the air. What is going on? Who are we speaking with?
Hey, Daniel, this is Amanda. I emailed you a while ago. I don't know if you remember me.
I get a few emails. What was in reference to?
Yeah. Oh, I don't remember, but I've been following this case since it happened, and I pretty much agree with everything that you guys bring forward and your theory on how the investigation likely played out in sequencing, even though there's so much we don't know. I definitely think the prosecution's case is strong. I agree. I think that the evidence is pointing more towards him, and I don't see it pointing in any other direction. I think that Ann Taylor is a great attorney. She's doing a great job, but I think that this is all just kind of procedural and making sure to cover her butt and prevent, him coming back and saying that she was ineffective. So as far as his family, I definitely think they have shared a lot with investigators. I'm not sure if it was before his arrest or after, but I do think that statement very much so implies that they not only answered questions, but probably provided more, greater insight into his behavior since he got back. And, even before that, sounds like he has pretty much been troubled for most of his life.
Yeah. From the sounds of it, I mean, from the jobs that I'm aware of, he's lost all of them or was asked to resign. From the fishing job, he was asked to go. From his security job, he was asked to resign. And I know somebody made a comment earlier that while he was in DeSales University, that he did well for 4 years. I don't think he was in DeSales for 4 years. I think he went to Northampton for a couple of years where, from my understanding, there was at least one girl that he was stalking there that I know of. Like I said, I've had victims contact me. There's at least one person from Northampton that he was stalking there. And then when he went to DeSales University, the only professor that gave him, any something positive as far as something to say about him was the professor that, recommended him to the PhD program. But she also admitted that she never,
virtual.
Yeah, it was a virtual class. She never met him in person. And so
I think, she wouldn't know his personality. And I also think, that the owner of the bar, over where he went in Pennsylvania, that guy has nothing to gain to come out and lie about him. And he, came out and told the stories about how he was asking those bartenders, if they lived alone and all this creepy stuff. I mean, I don't see that guy coming out and making up lies like that. There's just too much that is stacking up against him. And at this point, I see all the people saying, it's just rumors. You don't know Bryan Kohberger. The thing is, though, I find that the majority of these sources are more than likely probably legitimate. So I guess we'll see. But I think that there is a lot more evidence. I mean, they've had, over a year now to investigate since he was arrested. And, I think he's the guy. I wish for the family's sake that they would kind of set a date for this trial so that the defense doesn't just keep, doing all they can to prolong it. But I think Judge is pretty fair, though. I think at some point he's going to start, kind of making rulings on some of this stuff, because I get the sense that he's getting a little bit impatient with it.
Yeah, me too. I think that 100%. But thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate you. Thank you, and call in again next time. We'll appreciate it.
Yeah,
all right.
I will definitely.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
I'm gonna merge in this call real quick. 610, you're on, but just give us a few minutes. We're gonna talk real quick before we bring you back on. So,
okay.
Interesting stuff that she had said, Big Blue, that she was talking about. And one thing that came up was here, Ozzy said the PhD student he gave a ride home to was named Nayoung Ko. That is actually one of the other TSAs that are out there. There's one more who's also of Asian descent. That also shared his office. So this person here that he's speaking with is one person that shared Kohberger's office. There's one other person, and believe that office room number was 12. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I'm aware of who that is and stuff like that. Blue, what are you thinking about so far about the calls, and you have any input on anything?
Yeah, I mean, they're good calls. I think, like the lady said earlier, the judge is getting a little anxious. I think so. They want to get the trial as soon as possible, but we'll see how far along they can push it back.
Yeah. 610, you're back on the air. Who are we speaking with?
Hi, my name is Liz.
Hi, Liz. How's it going?
Good. I'm glad I got through, and I love you, Blue. You're my favorite.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm a super fan.
That's awesome.
Okay. Anyway, I have a couple comments, and then I also have some questions.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to piggyback off of the guy, I guess 2 callers ago, about the knife sheath.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, if he's this extreme vegan, why is he using a leather knife sheath? I mean, unless he has been planning this for a long time, that's kind of almost like somebody from PETA wearing a fur coat.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's just an odd choice to use.
Well,
and then also with that question, like, you were a cop, so I believe he was there. I believe he was involved. But at the same time, I think that people in the house were involved also. So question, if there are witnesses in the house, the roommates, people who called 911, do they search them when they go to the police station, when they go to do their statement? Like, who's to say one of them did not have the murder weapon on them?
Okay. Yeah, those are good questions and good comments. I'll start off with the first one with the leather knife sheath. He was vegan not because of, his choice not to hurt animals or things of that nature. It's because of from what I understand, my understanding of it. I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but it appeared that he had written down on certain medical like forums about having visual snow, and that he was basically combating some of the symptoms from, I think it was some of the drugs that he was taking, not necessarily like illegal drugs, but the prescription drugs that he was taking that were giving him the feelings of like no remorse and things like that. And he was utilizing not eating meat as a tool to cope with those side effects.
But I don't mean to interrupt, but the woman that you had on the show early on, the one that she was friends with him in high school, didn't she say something about, hey, like she used to go hunting and he was super against it and like, don't hurt animals, like you're horrible for doing that. And he was very pro life with even, wildlife. Maybe
I'd have
confusing him with someone else, but I thought she said that.
I'd have to go back and listen to it. It's been a while. Maybe I'll just message her and see if she'd answer that or come back on and reaffirm that. I don't recall, to be honest with you. It's possible that was the case, that she did want to go hunting and he wasn't for it. I'm not sure though.
I'm not too sure either.
It's possible. But and then the next one you're saying, as far as searching them, from my understanding, Dylan and Bethany were not considered as much as victims as much as they were suspects early on. They were treated just like that. They brought them in, they questioned them, they searched them. Yes, they also took their phones, they downloaded everything off of their phones, and anybody who could be questioned. Jack DeCore, the hoodie guy, all these people, they cooperated fully, gave DNA, gave their phones up for forensic downloads. So if there was some sort of like drug activity here and the victims were killed because of that drug activity, I would assume that police would have found drug activity on their phone, whether it was selling or holding or any of those type of things. And
I don't mean on the phone. I mean on their person, like to say that they had the knife on their body when they actually went into the police station.
Right. I mean, I don't know if they did, to be honest with you. I would have, I would have searched her when I, saw the scene. I would have searched everybody. Like, hey, this is for my safety and yours, because if I'm going to pat you down, right. Or if you say, no, you refuse to let me pat you down and you reach for your pocket pretty quick, I don't know what's in there. You know what I'm saying? So, for their safety and for my safety, that's the reason why I would have done it. It's just a safety search. Now, when you get to a scene like this, everybody's a suspect until you start clearing people, right? You can't look at somebody and automatically assume that they're a victim for whatever reason, because multiple times, the person, not every time, it's probably not even more times than often, but there's been several times where a person calls 911 who was the person that was doing something illegal, and usually it's like a situation where like an assault or something, somebody thinks that if they call 911 first, that the police will be on their side, type of stuff. And so, yeah, that's not usually the case. But I do believe that they did search them. But if there was, and what I mean by drugs is if there was a drug aspect to this, right? Or if these girls were holding drugs, or if this was a drug house that they held drugs at, this place wouldn't be a very good place to do so, because you had so many people going in and out. That's dangerous to hold that a large quantity amount of drugs there. And, two, if something like this was happening, there'd be a reason for it. And you would expect to see something on the cell phones, whether it was, going far back as far as, selling or buying or purchasing of narcotics, to dealings with suppliers and or people that are muling some of these narcotics from other places to be dropped off at their residence, and all those things. Those things would have been there, And
I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily that, but also, could he have been involved with one of the roommates? And I mean, if he didn't have a girlfriend before and he's desperate for love, who's to say that one of these girls didn't convince him, oh, these girls were so mean to me. Oh my gosh, like it's terrible for me. And then you're willing to do anything for the person you love. And I don't know. It just seems a little suspicious to me. There's something's involved.
All right. Well, I mean,
there's something off.
Here's what we know, though.
I don't know what it is, but it's off.
Right. Well, here's what we know. We know that there was audio taken from a video camera that was 50 feet away. So we know that on that audio, you hear barking from a dog, you hear whimpers, you hear voices, and you hear a thud. So you would assume that if you're able to hear those type of noises, if somebody was going in there with some sort of rage or anger, or on top of some sort of narcotics, you're going to expect to hear sounds of that. You expect to hear doors being knocked on. You expect to hear somebody yelling if they're angry. You expect to hear, you expect to see the car pull up, get off, and go in, and versus drive around 3 times if this person was that upset to kill 4 people.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because that was my next point. Because okay, so supposedly Dylan yelled about the noise, okay? So if you hear a thud and a whimper, you would hear that. And if you remember early on, it was either the coroner or the medical examiner said that on the second floor, there was a battle. If you remember, there was some type of report. It was on one of the news stations that, I think it was the medical examiner, but coroner, whichever. They said there was a battle on the second floor. So a battle, people fighting, people screaming, throwing each other against the walls, like, oh, help, help. How, first off, did Dylan not hear that? And why was that not picked up on this camera outside if you can hear a whimper and a dog bark?
So first, the coroner was it the coroner that spoke? Coroner never said that.
It was one of them, yeah.
Yeah. No, the coroner never spoke. The person that said that there was some sort of fight or anything was Steve Goncalves. He said that that somebody put up a fight, but he's been saying that about Xana. He said that about Kaylee, and to me, there's no sound of that. If somebody put up a fight, don't you think they would have gotten hair from the assailant, skin, cells from scratching, blood, sweat, any of those things on their body? And if they're using DNA off a knife sheath, that tells me that none of those things exist. What the coroner did say was that based on the information they had at that time, which was 2 days after the murder, that they thought that everybody was asleep in their bed when the attack started. Now, that would make sense if somebody doesn't have those defensive wounds in that manner. Now, they did mention defensive wounds, but they didn't say what kind, right? So defensive wounds isn't always somebody striking back. It can be as simple as somebody blocking. If they put their arms in front of their face and there are slash wounds on their forearms, that's considered defensive wounds. So,
but wasn't Xana awake?
Xana was awake, but we don't know how or where she was attacked from. Now, based on the information that I've been told from somebody that is close to this case, that the backsliding glass door was left open the entire time from the moment that it's believed that the backsliding glass door was left open the entire time. If Xana was on her phone and this person comes in, goes upstairs, maybe she hears the noises that Dylan hears, or maybe she just feels the draft of the open door. But she comes out, she goes over there, sees that it's open, says, I think somebody's here, turns around to walk back towards her bedroom. And at that point, the killer's coming down the stairs, comes up from behind her as she's walking in, strikes her, incapacitates her there. And then you have Ethan that's probably asleep. It's 4:00 in the morning. He'd been drinking, at 2 different parties that night. He was at Sigma Chi last, but before that, he was at another party with his twin brother and sister. So he's probably passed out. Maybe he's coming up awake. And yeah, I get he's 6'5" and strong, but if he's drunk and barely waking up and you have somebody 6'1", 6'2", armed with a 7-inch blade in his hand, you're in a very bad position. You know, there's nothing that anybody can do in that situation. And so, you know, for me, for the coroner to come out and say that they were asleep or they believe they were asleep during the crime and things like that, and then the lack of noise from the camera tells me a couple of things. One, that fight or for life wasn't there, and two, that the killer probably is a thrill killer. You know, that's the thrill, and that's the why and how and those things. You know, certain things don't matter when that's what it is. And you know, if you're going to have a thrill killer, you know, there's certain things that you can expect, right? You would expect them to have some problems with remorse and feelings and things like that. And I'm not saying that everybody that has that is a killer like that, but those that are killers typically have those symptoms. And from the sound of it, so did Bryan Kohberger.
But is a thrill killer somebody that goes, I mean, I don't know how many times, I think it was like 10, 15 times, and like stalk them prior? Or is a thrill killer somebody who just instinctively is like, I'm gonna get you, and you're just gonna go in the house and like stab somebody? He had been there numerous times, clearly, and then went back supposedly the next day.
Right. Well, I think,
mean, is that a thrill kill, or is that's either planned or put up to something?
Well, it depends on the intelligence of the killer. You know, if you have somebody that is highly intelligent, such as Bryan Kohberger, you're going to expect to see some, you know, things that are going to prevent him from getting caught. You know, BTK, you know, the only reason he got caught is because he sent in something on a floppy disk. You know, everything else, and he also taunted media and law enforcement. Had he not done that, they wouldn't even have connected multiple murders to him, and he probably would have never gotten caught. But because his need to want to be smarter than everybody else and you know, taunt these people is what, you know, at the end caught him. But if you're that intelligent, you're that smart, and you can come up with, you know, scenarios where you can go and commit the crime and get away with it, I think that also brings something extra to it. It's not just about committing the crime, it's also getting away with it. And as far as him going back the next day, you know, he left pretty abruptly from what I understand, based on the probable cause affidavit, based on information that we have been told or can assume. You know, if Dylan did yell out something and he took off because he thought he only had so much time before police would arrive, you know, he really didn't have a moment to take in what he did. You know what I mean? And so, you know, he goes to his home. He might search news, Moscow news, Pullman news. He can't search, you know, quadruple homicide, because if it hadn't been found yet, then, you know, he's kind of giving himself up, right? So you can't search those things. So he's probably wondering, why isn't there any news going on? This is an opportunity for him to go out there, because if it hasn't been discovered, then there's not police officers out there writing license plate numbers down. So now he can go back and relive whatever crime he committed that night before without the fear of somebody writing down his license plate. Now, once the crime was detected, could never go back. Now, according to the probable cause, that's exactly what happened. He never went back.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns, and I do have one last question. I'm sorry for keeping all your time and everything. And it's, I don't know if I saw this on your channel or somebody else's, or I just imagined it in my head because I cannot verify it anymore. I feel like, okay, so the girls waited, 8-10 hours to call the police, or, woke up, whatever. Somebody on one of the channels said that when you clean something with a bleach after a certain amount of hours, it's almost undetectable.
Yes.
That you can't prove. And my brother's a cop, and I asked him this, and he's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, because he's not a detective. He's like, I don't know. But, I mean, plus the doors were left open, so you're not smelling the bleach. You leave it there for hours. I mean, is there something to that? of somebody cleaning, or do you think that's just ridiculous?
All right. So as far,
and I don't mean Bryan. I don't mean Bryan clearly did not go back and clean, but I'm saying someone else.
Right. So if somebody cleaned up that area, bleach does dissipate, I think, after 24 hours. It's no longer noticeable. I have asked a real CSI investigator. His name's Steve. He has his own YouTube channel called True Crime Web, and also a medical forensic death investigator, somebody who has a master's degree in forensics. And also it kind of told us the same thing. Given the amount of time that he had, even if he didn't prep his car, given the information that he knows based on what he would have been taught out of DeSales. And we also went through what the training program is for somebody to get a master's degree in DeSales. They have to complete a forensics course. And so she told us with 7 weeks to do so, that it's very likely that somebody could clean that up and not leave any evidence as far as the cleanup, because especially if they had the know-how and the training. And so,
are you talking about in the vehicle or in the house?
And that's in the vehicle. Now, as far as the house
I'm
goes,
speaking of the house.
right,
Yeah.
If they checked it, then that day, then the bleach would show up. And
okay,
from what I heard, there was no cleanup. Even the coroner says that it was real messy. There's blood everywhere. What people are confusing is that, or maybe perhaps the confusion is that he went up to the third floor first. Those victims were attacked in their bed. And so the blood isn't going to pool on the floor. It's going to be soaked into the mattress. And so unless he steps in it, there's not going to be any footprint. So if he was there and he didn't step in any blood because he was on top of them, then as he walks down the stairs, unless he's rolling on the walls, there shouldn't be a trail. Now, when he gets to Xana's room, we know that she's on the floor at the end. We know that when officers get there, that she's on the floor based on the PCA. So I don't know if maybe at that point he stepped in something, wiped his foot somewhere, and he left a latent footprint, in the house. I don't know. But from what I understand is, if somebody cleaned up that area, you wouldn't have found the latent print. It wouldn't have came up because the bleach would have destroyed it.
Okay. It's fascinating. I mean, I want to watch the trial because this is crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I want to know what happened. It's terrible. And I want the right person to be, charged.
Oh yeah.
And I do believe he was there, and I believe he was involved. But like I said, I don't know if he's by himself.
Well, the only thing about that is, a lot of people find it hard to believe that one person could go in there and not leave their DNA behind. I think it'd be twice as hard for two people to go in there and not leave their DNA behind. Because let's be honest, if the knife sheath isn't left behind, there doesn't seem like there was any DNA that was left behind. Why would they use the DNA on the knife sheath if they had DNA underneath the victim's nails, or blood, or sweat, or something else that's more concrete that proves he was there? You know what I mean? So that tells me that wasn't the case. So if one person can go in there and basically do this 4 times in close combat, right? And this is, a knife isn't something far away, and not get their DNA left behind on top of the bodies, and for multiple people to do that, I find it very unlikely.
How do you feel about there's 2 DNA that were unidentified in Maddie's bed? And clearly, it was probably just her bringing guys home, but for the police to just, we didn't identify it, and then just kind of let it go. I think that's important.
Yeah, but
not to say that those people were involved, but you still should figure out a way to find
it. It just
it.
varies on where those 2 were collected. I don't think it was the bed. It was around the bed area.
No, it wasn't even
or
there.
In the room.
It was. So the way, here's the thing. The way it was written was, it said that in the area where 2 of the bodies were found were 2 unidentified male DNA. It also specifies that inside of the glove was another unidentified male DNA that was located and recovered on November, whatever. It was a few days after the incident.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't say it was on the bodies, the ones inside. Didn't say it was on the bed. It said it was in the area. Now, they were, Ann Taylor was super specific about where the DNA was inside the glove. Why do you think she wasn't as specific about the DNA inside the house if it was close to the bodies?
Okay.
My opinion is because that's the closest way she could describe the DNA as being close without lying. Because if it was within 3 feet, I would have said, if I was her attorney or law enforcement, there was a DNA within arm reach of the body. There was DNA on the body. There was DNA or this or that around the body. And if it's blood, sperm, sweat, things like that, that's not touch DNA, those things are more important. Now, if you had DNA 10 feet away on a dresser and there's a couple of beer cans next to it, and you can tell that DNA is from somebody who was there the night before at the party where there was 150 people at, why are you going to go to the full extent of searching that? And then the third thing is you have resources, right? So there's only so much resources out there. There's only one FBI, right? There's thousands of law enforcement agencies across the United States, and there's thousands of crimes that are happening that require the use of FBI. And so because of that, if they find somebody or they find DNA underneath the body of a victim on top of what they suspect brought in the murder weapon, and they go ahead, they find who that person is, his vehicle matches the vehicle seen on the camera. No license plate there. His phone just so happens to be off during the commission of the crime. And he's acting suspicious, wearing gloves and things like that. I think that at that point you can feel confident enough that this is your person. Know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't doubt he was, I 100% think he was there. But like I said, I don't know. It just seems like something else was involved. But the people who are saying that the police are setting them up, all PA and, Idaho and all, come on, that's ridiculous. But I don't know. It just, he got lucky then. He got lucky with not leaving a lot of DNA behind. And it's just crazy. And I feel bad for all the victims.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel bad for his family, too. If he actually is the killer, he ruined his own family's lives also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, yeah, you're absolutely right in there. A lot of lives were ruined in this situation. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I can't say for a fact that he's 100% guilty because I haven't seen all the evidence from trial or anything. I just find it highly, highly unlikely that, you can start it off anywhere you want. The white car, him being out that night and his phone being off, the DNA, and you can go in a circle about, all right, what's the chances that, the night that Bryan Kohberger goes out and turns his phone off, that a murder is going to happen? What are the chances that murder happens, that the person driving a vehicle is matching the vehicle that Bryan Kohberger drives? What are the chances that person driving that vehicle matches the height and weight that's similar to Bryan Kohberger? What are the chances then also that Bryan Kohberger's DNA is inside of that car? So by the time you get to all of those, it makes it very unlikely to be anybody. Now, when you start off with one, like for instance, we can start off with the DNA. What are the chances that Kohberger shook the hands of somebody who would end up taking the lives of 4 other people? And what are the chances that person is also the same height and weight as Bryan Kohberger? And what are the chances that person also drives a white Elantra without a front license plate? And what are the chances that when he commits this crime, Bryan Kohberger is just going to have his phone off? So, I said,
of course not.
You can start it anywhere you want in in that circle of where somebody could say, his phone could have turned off, because of phone service. Well, then what are the chances that his phone turns off at the same time that a murder happens? And then so on about the car and everything else in the DNA. So you can circle around it however you want. It just makes it seem very unlikely that it's not him.
You and Lana have to go on just the two of you and debate from Truth and Treaty. You guys could go back and forth all day.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to see that.
We've done it before.
Yeah, we've been on her show a few times.
Yeah, and she's a great person. We respect her. She's awesome. We've been on her show. She's been on ours. We don't believe in the same things, but I think that we can kind of show everybody that just because you don't have a difference of opinion, just because you have a difference of opinion, doesn't mean you can't be civil with people. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Definitely.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the call and everything and you coming in. We thank you.
Thank you so much. Love you, Blue.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Right,
Thank
bye.
you.
Bye. That was a great question. Great question. Great stuff. Blue, what are your thoughts? You've been quiet all day. What are you thinking? What are your thoughts?
I mean, like the DNA in the room, that to me is not too specific, because if it was important, it would be searching actively for those people to be identified.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, it's not that important. They were probably found in the room. Could have been.
Who's Megan?
I
keep seeing something in the live chat that Megan's trying to call in. That says I'm trying.
Yeah,
Megan,
we just get numbers on the calls. We don't get names.
Yeah, we just get numbers, not names. If you could send me your, area code, if I see it, I'll answer it. Oh, you're the person that's on right now. Well, Megan, welcome to the show. What's going on?
Hi, Daniel.
Yes, ma'am. How's it going?
Good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Me and Blue just up here having a great conversation with some great people that have great questions. What's up?
Hey, let me turn off my YouTube right now. Let me turn off my YouTube right now so that let me turn up my YouTube because I think I'm getting like an echo. 1 second.
No problem.
Are you still there?
Yes, ma'am. We're here.
Okay, sorry. I just hung up my YouTube because I was getting a bad echo.
No problem.
Then I didn't want to mess up. So yeah, I have been in the chat. I haven't been getting too much love tonight, but I'm used to that for having an unpopular opinion about the case. But I did want to, I respect you guys. I've been following you from as soon as you started following the case.
Oh, thank you.
So, if, you're interested in my side of things, because I do know someone, people were confused. Like I was saying, I knew the family. I do not know the family. I've never even been to the state of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I know very well someone who is a family friend who went to middle school, high school with Bryan, who knew him, in the post-high school years when he was having his drug issues, and has kept in infrequent touch with him in the years since, because they both still lived in the area. And I've been interested in true crime for a while. So when I happened to be talking to my friend and I knew that they knew each other, I kind of picked his brain. I didn't want to be insensitive, because it's a friend. I don't want to ask too many questions. Just like if I was friends with Dylan or Bethany, I wouldn't ask them questions, it's going to make them feel bad. But I was interested, and I kind of was, you sneaky ways of trying to be like, oh, hey, what do you think about this? And from what he says, and I have no reason to disbelieve him, he says Bryan, was bullied in middle school. Definitely. He was not someone that would ever stay there for a fight. He would run from fights. He would, run and hide, which is sad. But then he got more confident in high school, 16, 17. He started running. He started boxing every day. He didn't notice any kind of aggression from him, which is something that we heard from, or I heard when I saw an interview with a female friend of his. My friend didn't say he ever saw any of that. He said that Bryan was a cool guy. He had a tight group of friends. It was not a big group of friends. He was not popular, but he had a tight group of friends, and they all hung out together all the time. Now, once he got into good shape, he did start dating girls, and my friend made it very clear to me. The story that he's an incel is 100% not true. He dated girls, he dated multiple girls, and he even dated what my friend called the local hottie. I know her name. I'm not going to say her name on here, obviously, and then dox her or my friend. But from what I've been told, and I trust my source, I have no reason to think he would lie to me. he comes from an amazing family. The family 100% supports him. The sisters support him. They didn't call him tips. And he doesn't have issues, you know, getting girls. I don't know anything about all this stalking stuff that you've heard. You know, you've researched it. I haven't, so I don't know anything about that. But that's not the story that's not the story about Bryan Kohberger that I've been given.
Gotcha.
And this is someone who still lives in the local area, still, you know, sees the parents out and about shopping. So I find that the mainstream media narrative hard to believe.
I'm just curious, this friend of yours, there's two guys I have in mind, and I may not know who this person is. There's probably a lot of people that knew Kohberger. Is one of them, has he been on YouTube panels before?
He has been on one YouTube channel before. I don't know if it's a pretty small following show, because he
goes by a different name than what his real name is, right?
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about.
So I don't know if it's the same person or not.
No. I know who you're talking about. He knew Kohberger from a distance, from what I understand. He wasn't like really friends with him. He was friends with, or he was closer with Bryan Kohberger's mother, from what I understand. I have listened to every conversation that guy's had for the most part. Going back to when he came out on this one channel that at the time didn't have very many views, and he used his real name in that one, and he was talking about how you know, if he's the guy, he thought he did it because, you know, that's what the evidence said, but the more things come about, he's not so sure. You know, he has said that he knew of him, that he was closer towards with his parents, and that he thought that his parents were fabulous people. And I think he had mentioned that he had done drugs, but he wasn't really close with him that much. Now, there has been one other guy that came forward. I can't remember his name, but he has long hair, and I was going to ask you if it was the long-haired kid. But he came out saying that he had talked to Kohberger, that he knew him throughout his heroin days, and
that's who the person that I'm talking about definitely knew him during the heroin days. There were other drugs, not just, well, I don't want to say anything bad about the kid, but
right. And
I think we're talking.
Yeah, he had mentioned something about talking to Kohberger as recently as, you know, Thanksgiving, and that mentioned that Kohberger was, you know, interested in becoming a high-profile detective, that he wanted to solve high-profile cases, and that he also mentioned that. Well, I found that weird about that high-profile case thing, because about 5 days before that, I came to the conclusion that I thought that one of the motives for this case was to create a high-profile crime and get away with it. You know, I felt that if somebody is going to try to commit the perfect crime, and you see vehicles that you've never seen before, and you have maybe somebody's boyfriend who's there, that would put a wrench in there, unless it didn't matter. And why would it not matter? It would not matter if it was, if the goal was mass casualty, if the goal was to take the lives of more people, so that that way the case becomes bigger. And so I came out with that, and then about 5 days later, 6 days later, this guy comes forward, says that he's talking to him around Thanksgiving break, and he's talking about being a cop that wants to solve high-profile crimes. And I start thinking to myself, well, around that time, he already had issues with TSA. Around that time, he already got declined of being an intern police officer with Pullman Police Department. He got declined in April. I'm not sure when he got declined in the fall, but we do know, because it has been reported since then, that he did get declined in the fall. You know, I'm assuming it's all because of his background check. Now, he was forced to resign as a security guard while he was, you know, studying into sales. There's a resignation letter that is out there. You know, all those things. He also had a drug history. All those things don't really equate to a prime candidate for a police officer. And I think he knew that. I think he knew that because of his past and because of the issues that he was having and currently having, that no police department was going to pick him up. Now, if his goal was to be involved in a high-profile crime and he can't be the cop, I don't think he wants to be the victim. There's only one other role you can play in that situation.
Well, I have two, maybe, well, one story about that, and then maybe like an argument.
Okay.
The story that I heard about the resignation from the security guard job was that was a mass thing. Like 20, 30 people did that at the same time because a bunch of people had been fired, and then a bunch of others just kind of in, I don't know, some kind of protest, they quit at the same time. Also, he was about to be coming out to Washington, so he's going to be leaving that job anyway. I don't know if that's got anything to do with, you know, that's just what I was told. So that's what I'd say about that, just as like a separate point of interest. And then as far as like the not being able to be a cop, what if, I mean, he still went out there to get his PhD, so he has to at least believe that he's got a chance at doing something. I would think maybe he wants to get in with the FBI or the CIA, or maybe he just wants to teach. I think, yeah, he probably did think, I'm not going to be a cop, but he also kind of,
well, those other organizations require background checks that are even more extensive. And if he wanted to teach, you know, that requires a background check as well. And if he was having issues with females, and there's something documented about that, you know, I know somebody in the live chat said that, you know, his first resignation letter didn't insinuate that he was going to get fired. I believe that the resignation letter stated that I am aware that if I do not resign, that I could be terminated. So, you know, those type of things, in my opinion, I think that's weird. You know, if an entire group of people decide to just quit instead of getting fired. Because if you force them to fire you and there's a layoff like that, you get unemployment, you get a check. And if you quit, your SOL up ships creek. So yeah, so I don't really think that that's probably true, but I mean, I don't know. It could be some sort of protest. I don't know. I would have thought that he wouldn't have done something like that solely because if he had any anticipation or aspirations of being in law enforcement, you want to be able to justify any of those type of things and clear your name. And if you have something like that and you just quit and you have something on there that says you're aware that you would have been terminated, it doesn't look good. And the likelihood of you getting the job is going to be little to none. You know, Pullman Washington probably went to WSU and talked to his fellow PhD students who had already started documenting disturbing behavior between himself and other students. They're going to probably talk to his professor who also had documented, you know, his disturbing behavior, which required a behavioral plan that started off about a month after he started enrolled or started teaching as a teacher's assistant in WSU. So those things were happening fairly quick. And like I said, I don't know. I just don't think he would have been a prime candidate for becoming anybody's, you know, police, anything, even as an intern. And if and police department and sheriff's department is probably the lowest on the totem pole. If you can't get in there, you're not getting in the FBI, you're not getting in the CIA, you're not getting into any of those other federal jobs that require a background check that is more extensive than what local law enforcement can do.
And I mean, I have no idea about the police. I don't know anything about any of that stuff. So I appreciate your guys' you know, what you have to say on that, because I don't know anything about that stuff. I guess I just kind of question, like, why would he be cool with the defense wanting everything under seal and wanting no cameras if he wanted to be famous? He seems like he wants to be out of the spotlight. Yeah,
I mean, but the thing is, he's already famous. And I'm not sure his goal was to be famous. I think that his goal was to create an unsolved crime. You know, they weren't supposed to find out who he was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I misunderstood what you meant by that.
Yeah. And so because of that, and you know what, this may have also been like the first of many. I'm not sure if he's done it before or anything like that, but it definitely seems, you know, characteristic of somebody that would repeat this kind of crime, if not have already done it, regardless of who committed this crime, based on the information that we know, the lack of sounds, the lack of rage, the evidence that makes you believe that this was a thrill, you know, those type of things.
Yeah, well, you haven't convinced me, but you've definitely given me some things to think about.
Oh, 100%. I'm not here to try to convince anyone. I'm just trying to, lay down the evidence as it is. If somebody came out to me and said, hey, there's this aspect that doesn't make sense, and I think he's innocent because of this, and I look into it and it makes sense, then, that might change my tune a little bit. Richard Allen is a case that I thought that dude was 100% guilty. There's nothing you could have told me I would have changed my mind until that 136 document page came out from the defense team, and they started talking about certain things, and then I started looking into other things, and certain things started connecting. And now I don't know. I'm very honest when it comes to those type of things. I'm not trying to what's what I'm looking for. I don't try to create a narrative and stick to it. If I'm wrong about something, I'll admit that I'm wrong, and I will note it down, so that way the information that I push out to you guys is the most accurate information that I have. I hope that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I just called because I wanted to just at least share what I've been told, just to give another side of it, because on the chance that maybe he is innocent, I just hate to think that somebody's going to have to spend the rest of their life, people thinking all these awful things about him, and it might not be true.
Right.
So I just wanted to put what I'd been told out there. I don't have any reason to disbelieve my friend that told me. So
yeah.
He doesn't have anything to gain because he's not trying to make money. He's not trying to get his face out anywhere.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. If you talk to him and he's interested in coming on our show to just have a friendly conversation, I'm not going to I don't try to embarrass anybody. I don't talk down to anybody or any of those type of things. I feel that everybody has a right to their opinion. And, if there's something of value that can be brought up or maybe even taught to myself or Big Blue or Jaime or whatnot, and that we want that information. We want to be as up to date as possible. We want to understand all sides of the spectrum. That way, if you're too one-sided on something, then you're going to be blinded.
Still blind.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yep.
So you don't want to be blind. And I do my best to not stay blind. I do watch some other creators that talk about the the possibility of him being innocent. I'll just be honest, I haven't found one that recently, before a lot of this evidence came out, before people had contacted me, I probably was also on the fence. I mean, I know I was on the fence, but as more of the information came out and stuff like that, it's gotten clearer for me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a little bit more information to clear out some of the blank spots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Well, thank you so much, Megan. I appreciate you coming on. Join us again the next time we do this. We'd love to hear from you.
I will, and I'll let my friend know that you're interested if he wants to reach out.
That'd be awesome. Tell him to email us or Facebook message us. Those are the easiest way to get a hold of us.
Okay, right. I will. Thank you so much for taking my call.
No problem. Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye. That was a great caller. Great questions. Great conversation. I hope that she can get this gentleman on the show. I know who he is. I've listened to him talk a few times. It's kind of crazy. I also know the other person that she's aware of. But like I said, I've really looked into this case from every single angle, 100%. And we'll see what happens in court. Big Blue, what are your comments? I think that's going to probably be the last call. We might take one more, but let's see. I want to start going through some of these chats and super chats that we have. In fact, that's what we're going to do, Blue. That's going to be the last call. We're just going to we're going to look at the comment section, star some stuff if you haven't started, and things like that. Canadian True Crime came in gifting 5 Drunk Turkey Show memberships. Man, you're awesome. Thank you so much for being a mod, a member, a subscriber, and a friend of the show. We appreciate you. Ozzy comes in saying a neighbor, maybe. I'm not sure what that was referencing to. What was that?
That was referencing when we were talking about who could be the person that spoke to the news about, him cleaning the car with the Clorox and him wearing the gloves at the house.
It could be. I mean, there's that. There's also what I believe is camera footage of him entering December 16th. Based on the wording that they use in the probable cause affidavit, It sounds like he was videotaped entering that subdivision on the 16th. And I think there may be some cameras in that area. And that could have also caught him cleaning and washing his car. You know what I mean? Anna said he had just finished 4+ years at the sales with conventionally aged students. I think he'd only been there for 2 years. I think he went to Northampton University or junior college or something like that for a couple of years. But I heard he had some problems there with ladies there. Let's see. I'm gonna pull them up, Blue.
Okay.
Alley Cat comes in with a membership for 3 months saying, I just can't with people. You know, some folks just haven't heard everything or have a difference of opinion, or, you know, there's stuff that I don't know. I mean, the other day I was going through some paperwork that I had saved, I never read. And it was when we're going through the press releases, and it said that on the 911 call that the caller had called in saying that they felt that one of the victims on the second floor had passed out and wasn't waking up, and that's why it came in as an unconscious person. I've never read that until that day. So, you know, I have the, I don't want to say the freedom, more like the obsession to figure stuff out, to go through every single thing that I read and things like that. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Tash Cole comes in with, always love your content, fellas. Aussie fan here. Thank you so much. Thank you. Was there a hearing today? Love you guys. February 26th. Was there a hearing? I don't think there was. If there was, I haven't obsessed over this case like I should have. Let me check. I'm going to look up the interweb. I don't think I saw one, but I could be wrong. Did you know of anything, Blue?
Not that I know of. I'm going to jump off the Skype.
All right, go ahead, man.
I'm having like an
echo.
Yeah.
No problem. I'm going to remove. All right, you test. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, cool. All right. I don't know if there was a hearing or not. That's possible, but I didn't see any, and I just Google searched it. I didn't see anything there either. Girlie comes in with girl comes in with a $13.99 Canadian dollars. Thank you so much. When researching this case, you're using a Wayback Machine website for broken web links, or if you are removed from the web pages, are they removed there too? Great show. I don't really use the Wayback Machine. I haven't used it. I save and download the documents that I look at, because I don't ever want to be in a situation where I can't find something. Like I was with the press releases. I couldn't find those, and I had to go one by one. It took me like 7 hours to find as many as I did. It was horrific. Blue, are you familiar with the Wayback Machine?
No, I never used it, and it was something.
Yeah, it's a way of researching things that happened a long time ago that are hard to find nowadays. Like, for instance, if you're looking for, the original breaking news that something happened in Moscow, Idaho, if you put in breaking news, Moscow, Idaho murders, it's going to be a while before you find it, but if you go to the Wayback Machine, it'll kind of pull up from back a long time ago. I haven't really used it, but I think that's my understanding of it.
Gotcha.
Mountain Mama comes in with her 11-month membership saying DTS best channel on YouTube. Oh, we appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Serious Black comes in with a $2 super chat, says thank you for the facts and not bringing the BS. I appreciate that. That's what we're here for. We're trying to stick to the facts, and we're trying to follow the evidence. Like I said on the channel and to the caller before, I'm very honest when it comes to what I think about a certain situation. I'm not one that don't think that law enforcement can't mess up, or an officer can find, or there can be a bad officer out there. I think that those things are plausible, possible, and have happened. I just think it's the extent in which certain things is questionable on certain things. You know what I mean? What are your thoughts, Blue?
Yeah, we try to stick to the facts and try to break down the evidence and stick to the narrative that, you know, everybody's got a innocent till proven guilty.
Yeah. Mikey S comes in with a $5 super chat. What's up, Mikey? Good to see you back. He says, I can vouch for the restaurant reservation. I'll send it to you for my stuff to show, just in case it's questioned as legit by some. It's a screenshot. Yeah, I have send it to me. I have one picture of it, but the picture that I have has somebody's face on it, so that's the reason why I don't want to show it. But if you have it, or I can kind of hide the face a little bit, that'd be awesome if you can send that to me. Thank you so much. Let's see. Let's go through some of the questions and then we'll call it a show. I'm going to scroll up just a little bit, not too far. Was BK teaching at WSU? He was a teacher's assistant, so he graded certain paperwork. He talked about what he expected his students to write on their reports and things. In fact, there were certain students that came forward talking about how hard of a grader he was initially. Oh, BK's hearing is the 28th. That's right. Wednesday, the hearing. Okay, Rolo. I don't know what you're going with that, but all right. It's going to be a joke if they move the venue. Maybe. The one thing that when it comes to the venue, I honestly think that the defense is probably going to win that. And the reason being is the prosecution showed their hand. They only want to do this between the summer, between school sessions, and they only want to do it within 6 weeks. All Ann Taylor has to do is just push it past the summer and say that they're ready to go, and say that they need longer than 6 weeks. And if Moscow can't accommodate for the logistics nightmare that might occur, then it must be moved to another place. It's not fair for the victims or even Bryan Kohberger, if he's ready to go to court, that they have to wait a year for Moscow to figure out how they're going to do the traffic there. I don't think it's fair. And so just wanted to leave that there. Oh, thank you. Megan comes in with a 199 super chat, says, appreciate you taking my call. Wow, we appreciate you calling in. Thank you so much. Let's see. He was never arrested for his addictions, and there are plenty of guys who've jumped up after kicking their habits. Oh, who've joined up. Gaines, he was never arrested for his addictions, and there are plenty of guys who joined up after kicking their. Yeah,
let's talk about the police department.
Yeah, I guess somebody Gaines was a police officer that had a problem. I don't know. I mean, it depends on the drug, and it depends also on other factors, right? It depends also like how long it's been. I had a friend of mine who was a police officer who had his master's degree in psychology. He was actually a professor at the university. But he always wanted to be a cop. That was one of his things. And he joined, he had a master's degree, and we used to tease him like, man, the only guy here with a master's degree, you're probably more qualified than our chief. And, we used to joke, I'm like, what are you doing here? You should be, making a ton of much more money somewhere else. But he always wanted to be a cop. He ended up going federal. But when he was in college, he did a thesis on the effects of marijuana and what it has on the effects of marijuana and people that are going to college, and if it affects their grades, it affects their memory, as those things that are indicated that they do affect. And he smoked marijuana for 1 year, and apparently that prevented him from being a cop for multiple years. It took him, I mean, he was up there in age. He was probably about 35 when they finally gave him the opportunity to be a cop, because it'd been over 10 years or something like that. So, yeah. And even at that, they gave it, from what I understand, when they hired him, it was iffy. It was because there was a huge shortage and they needed people. You know what I mean? So, but there are places and other places that do allow it. I mean, I know that in San Antonio, as long as you're honest about it and you're not doing it currently, and you can pass a lie detector test, they don't care. Now if you're currently doing it and you fail a drug test, then obviously they do.
Yeah.
Do we really know that the 8 hours passed from any official source? Well, the only reason we know that the 8 hours passed is that there is evidence that Dylan Mortenson woke up at 4 o'clock. Her own statements and the evidence from her phone, whether it was just her simply turning on the phone or activating it to see what time it was and things like that. Yes. Either way, they know that they were up at 4. She had indicated she saw somebody that she believed were the killer during that specific time when the white Elantra is not seen on camera, and then is shortly seen on camera afterwards, hauling tail. So you can kind of deduce that crime occurred at around 4 a.m. And we know exactly what time that they called law enforcement at 11:58 a.m. So that's where the 8 hours comes in. Let's see. Big Blue, you got any final words and stuff? Anything you want to talk about before we call it a show?
Nothing tonight. I just want to say thank you for everybody who's been on tonight. We had quite a few people today, and quite a few interesting calls. Great perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for being on, guys.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody. Thank you guys so much. I'll be back probably, Wednesday if nothing else happens. I'll be back tomorrow. Guys, I did a members only live yesterday, and I'm going to continue to do those on Sundays. And on Tuesdays, well, tomorrow sometime, probably around noon or so, I'll throw out the members only live that we did yesterday, and all the content that was in there will come out on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get podcasts from. I appreciate everybody that called in. I appreciate everybody that donated to the channel, talked in the show, did a super chat, super sticker, mods, new members, old members. We appreciate you guys. Until next time.